Nice to see that we have some guests, and I feel very honored to be able to talk about a topic that has gotten more and more into the focus in recent years, which is mental health, which is a very positive development, more and more people opening up about their inner life, which also makes it easier for their surroundings to show vulnerability. My name is Fabian. Some of you may know me under my artist name, which is Fab Massimo. I'm a producer and DJ based in Berlin. I raise awareness for mental health on the socials and do workshops at festivals. And I'm also a trained medical doctor, still practicing in part-time, so that interest for health and mental health has always been part of my journey and still is. And the way we're going to do this, this is supposed to be a little quick guide to staying sane in an insane work environment. I'm going to give you some theory and some numbers, and then we're going to have an interactive part where Nacho's going to talk a little bit about his experiences. So why don't you just present yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here also in the Berlin Dance event. Welcome you all. My name is Nacho. I have a long career within the business, like with at a level head. I'm a resident in a club, also DJing, have events. So I'm a lot of business related with the music industry. And since a couple of years, I have been thinking or talking with a lot of friends of mine that and I always asking them how they are doing, and it's very surprising that when you ask twice or three times, they start talking. So they start talking about their problems. Since a couple of years, I'm talking with Fabian about the topic, and we decided it's time to speak out openly about those kind of things that probably we don't talk too often.
Yeah, and before I dive right in, I just want to voice a quick trigger warning. We're talking about mental health, so we might also touch on depression, suicide, or death. So if that's something that you don't want to hear, you're not ready at the moment, then this would be your chance to leave the room. But I don't see anyone moving, so so we can continue. So I just want to start off with this picture. This is a graffiti you can find in Tel Aviv, and this is not so much about the art or the artist itself, but it's about the faces that we see in the picture, and I'm sure that all of you will recognize at least one of the faces or a few ones of those. If you could give this picture a title, or if you could name what all of these people have in common, I'm sure you have an idea. What would the title of this graffiti be? Just shout it out. Yes? Sadness, yes, yes. What? Yes. It's more about the artists themselves. See, Amy Winehouse.
Success is not solving all the problems.
Yes. Yes. Then we have Jimi Hendrix there. What do all of these people have in common?
I'm 100% sure, but I think they committed suicide.
Yes, some of them committed suicide, some of them were accidents. They all died at a very young age, 27. So this is the title of the graffiti. It's the Club 27, which is a group of artists, and not just these, but many artists that died at a very young age due to very unfortunate events. And I'm sure this is something you've heard before. The term Club 27, I think is very well known. Which one of you thinks that it's a real thing, that there's actually something going on with the number 27? Raise your hands if you think it's a real thing. So you got 1/4 says it's a real thing, and then who of you thinks it's just an urban legend backed by some anecdotal evidence? There's no truth to it at all. Raise your hands. Oh, no, you have to raise your hands. It's only two options. So we've got not sure kind of in the middle. All right. So luckily there's some science on it. A professor from the University of Sydney, she actually did some research on it and analyzed the biographies of 10,000 different pop music artists, and she found that there's a peak of high mortality at a certain point, but it's not the age 27, it's at age 56. Which is a lot better than 27, granted. However, it's still way younger than the average life expectancy of people in the normal population that don't do music as a full-time job. The average life expectancy here in the West is up to 80 years right now. The study was published a little bit earlier, like 10 years ago, so it's almost 80 years. So the conclusion is that musicians, pop musicians, live up to 20 years or die up to 20 years younger than the average population, which is a very striking statistic. And this gives us two conclusions, okay? One is apparently there's a high risk of dying young in the music industry, and we have to take care of us. This is kind of the serious conclusion. And the music industry may provide a lot of factors that are risky to us. The other conclusion could be people that have a tendency, out of whatever reason, maybe early childhood trauma or their background, that those people that have a higher risk of dying young tend to go into the creative sector more often. So there could be two reasons behind it. We don't know which one is true. Could be one or the other. But it's just a wake-up call to be aware that we have to take responsibility for this. One more thing I thought was interesting in the statistic is that also the musical genre you work in seems to have an impact on how long you live. So as a jazz musician, you would have a longer life expectancy than average. And as a hip-hop artist, you would have a very, very short life expectancy. And we as electronic musicians, we're somewhat in the middle. This is the curve. On the x-axis, you can see the genres. And as we can see, blues, jazz, very high life expectancy. And then goes down to rap and hip-hop and metal. And we are somewhat in the middle, but still affected by having a shorter life expectancy. Now, this is the first conclusion. And this is something that seems to be common sense ever since that creativity and madness or sadness go together. So maybe people with that tendency tend to go into music. And the other conclusion could be music is making us sick. Okay? These are the most common mental health issues. They occur as much in the regular population as in the artist population. Anxiety is the most common one all across the board. Anxiety is a state of fearfulness that can occur generalized all the time. So your heart is always pumping a bit faster and you're always a bit nervous, or specialized due to events. And this is something that we see in performance anxiety, for example, which is very common among musicians. Depression, a state of low mood, lack of motivation, and lack of positive outlook in the future. Burnout is not as clearly defined as the other ones in psychiatry, but it's basically when you've overstepped your own boundaries and kept working on and on again until exhaustion, and it can come in different forms with different types of symptoms. And then substance abuse, another one. I think we can all agree that substances are very common in probably all creative sectors, but especially in the music industry, they're available at all times. And we'll also know that oftentimes part of our payment is just a few drinks. So it's quite likely that this can become a habit with the potential of dependency and other things. All right, now I want to know a little bit about you as an audience. You can just raise your hands if you don't want to participate. It's okay, you don't have to. But which one of you is actually doing music full time? Raise your hands. Living completely off music. Okay. And which one of you is doing it part time? That means they still have maybe a normal job, regular job, safe job to pay the bills. And which one of you is just doing it as a hobby? Nice.
We have the three.
Yes.
Very cool.
And which one is just here to look and has no musical ability yet? No one. Okay. Now I've got one more question for you, and I know this is a very personal question, so you don't have to raise your hand. You can just leave it down if you don't feel comfortable sharing. But which one of you has encountered some sort of a mental health issue in their past, be it anxiety, depression, for whatever reason? Raise your hands. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Interesting. I thought that they probably were not like, yeah, but it's very cool.
Yes, interesting. Thanks for sharing, for sure. It's interesting now almost everyone raised their hand, and this makes sense because most people once in their lives will experience something, but given that we're on average pretty young, it's still a striking statistic, right? And we've also got some numbers to back this up from the University of Westminster. They asked a population working in the music industry, have you ever suffered from a mental health issue? Not like that. It was a proper questionnaire, but this is the core question they were asked. And this was with regards to anxiety and depression. And they found, which quite well matches the impression we got here with almost everyone raising their hands, that most people were affected at some point in their lives. And out of the population, you can group them via their professions. Solo artists were affected quite strongly, audio production a little bit less, management still a lot, still over 60%. And DJs, apparently the ones that are most affected by anxiety, which is quite interesting. And just for context, this is what you would see in the normal population. So once again, this is not, I get right back to you. So once again, this is not to just paint a grim image of the music industry, not to say that everything's terrible, but this is one conclusion. You have to find strategies to take care of yourself early on. And the other one, which can be a bit more positive, is to think about it this way. You're not the only one, okay? So a lot of people feel very isolated with their mental health issues, which is why they don't talk about it. But when you look at these numbers, chances are whoever you talk to at whatever event, there's a high chance they will be able to relate to you in some way. So maybe a wake-up call to realize that it's not necessary to always hide those issues from everyone, okay? You had a question.
I was just thinking about stress, like if it also falls under a mental health issue, because it was not on the list.
Sorry?
If stress is also, if that also falls under a mental health issue.
Yes. Just to clarify, anxiety and depression in the medical field are very defined terms. They have very hard criteria. They are diagnoses. That's why they are more easy to track. And stress is more of a symptom, so it's not quite as clear. That's why it's not included in these studies. It's not a disease. Stress is not a disease, while anxiety and depression are diseases. That's the only reason. Okay. But stress plays a huge role. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Okay, yeah, and this goes right in the next section. Oh, no. Yes. Before we get deeper into those risk factors, which are very important, I wanted to share with you a model that for my personal self was very, very helpful. because a lot of times we find ourselves in situations where we maybe don't feel good, and it can be very helpful to approach things a bit analytically. One of the main problems with people not opening up about their inner life is that we as a society tend to get disconnected to ourselves. So oftentimes we don't even know what's wrong with us. We don't even know why we're feeling this way. And this blossom of psychological needs is a very simple model that can help clarify things. These are the 4 things that we need to feel mentally good about ourselves. There are basic needs, enjoyment, probably one of the reasons why we got into music in the first place, right? We love making music, we love performing, we love being creative. But given the stress that we're exposed to in the music industry, this need may not be fulfilled by our profession anymore, right? It can be that we have to find other things that give us enjoyment. If music, don't worry, if music has just become a work for us. Same with self-esteem enhancement. We, as humans, we need to be able to feel good about ourselves. We need to solve problems in order to feel capable. And this has to do with self-esteem enhancement. We need to do things that make us feel good about ourselves. And we're all aware that a path in the creative field is a path of ups and downs constantly. So you may have a good week, you may have a great gig and get a follow-up booking and feel very good about yourself. And then the next thing you know is you have a creative block and you can't write any music for a year. So, and your self-esteem is suffering tremendously. So once again, you have to make sure that your self-esteem depends on different things in your life, that there are different columns in your life that can provide you with self-esteem. For a lot of people, it can be physical exercise, just going to the gym and making progress there, right? So you have to spread out your capital. Relatedness, I think, is very obvious. We're social beings, so we need human connection with other people. And this is something we might sacrifice in the pursuit of getting better and connecting more, doing more performances, that we don't keep in touch with our friends and family as much. So chances are, if you're feeling down, maybe you're missing that part of the blossom. And the last one is autonomy. You need to have a sense of freedom in your life, a sense of you making your own decisions, you taking things into your own hands. And once again, if we're taking on too many projects, too many jobs, then we might reach a point where we're not free anymore because we have to finish all those projects. Same goes for financial reasons. Maybe we're dependent on the things we do. So keeping up a little bit of autonomy in your life, very important. And this goes back to being able to say no to things and setting boundaries. And the last one, before we get to the interactive part, is this pyramid, as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is also a very well-known model for our well-being in the psychological field. Basically, what Maslow is stating is that we need to have certain needs fulfilled first, which are physiological needs, in order to get to the next step of the pyramid, which would be safety, okay? Health, security, employment, resources, money. And once you have that fulfilled, that's when you can go to the next step and take care of your family, friends, intimacy, and a sense of connection. Then we have esteem, respect, recognition, self-esteem. And the top of the pyramid is considered self-actualization or self-expression in other wordings of the model. And what's very interesting is that in the creative field, a lot of times, or let's say the main driving factor of being an artist is self-actualization, is self-expression. So the main reason we're going into this field is because we want to express ourselves, or we want that outer recognition. So we're focusing on the top of the pyramid, and oftentimes we're sacrificing parts of the other steps of the pyramid just to get to the top. And this can lead to the fact that this pyramid is flipped around and it's lacking the foundation. So everything else in your life is just founded on your self-actualization. And you can imagine that this doesn't work if you keep sacrificing your sleep, if you may give up your stable job for in order to be an artist. Yeah, can create some problems. The need for safety may not be as fulfilled. Same goes with friends and family, just as a time issue. All right, so we made it through the theoretical part. Let's get a bit interactive.
Yeah.
Yes. This is where we collect the risk factors.
Thank you for your statistical part. Very interesting. I would like to recollect from the guys who are here some risk factor. What do you think are the risk factors in the mental health? For example, I will say financial uncertainty, that I don't know if you get your it's not a like a fixed job, so you don't get paid like at the end of the month. You only have to every month to see if you're going to get the money. What do you think? There's another factors that can like.
What are stress was one we heard,
Yes.
very very important one. What are other things that make the music business especially difficult?
For me, I discovered 2 years ago that in order to be mentally stable, let's say, that we have to live kind of healthy life,
Mm-hmm.
do sports, eat well, sleep well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel something like music industry is completely opposite. I can go for I can have perfect weekend with doing sports and stuff, and I'm gonna feel amazing. And it's gonna be nice. But then other weekend to do some music, go out
Okay.
to party stuff, and I'm gonna break everything, and I'm gonna do completely opposite, and then I'm gonna do something in the music industry, but it's gonna turn bad for my health, and that's, I think, it can go it's really hard to combine those things together, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's very important to find
Yes.
a balance between both. Say something.
I think toxic comparison is a huge thing.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
most of the people are checking on Instagram, checking on others, and forgetting their own successes. And because everybody's showing their best side on social media, and of course, if somebody is getting more booked, then you might feel like you're not there yet. Even though if you compare yourself to your younger self, you might have made a huge success. Also, always one step away from substance abuse, because I do think that almost nobody has their shit under control in that scene somehow. So it's kind of connected to what he said. So trying to find the right balance is really hard. So I think that that's a huge issue and is probably leading to a lot of mental issues.
Thanks. Anybody
Yeah,
want
we
to say
can
something?
just go around maybe if you don't have to.
I'm good.
Good.
You had something? Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Yes.
We collect some of them. I think it was like 10 points.
Yes.
But I can tell you there's way more. This is just a topic that we can talk like hours and hours about it. We have high level of stress and pressure. Being an artist is not viewed as a proper profession. This is something that also personally happens to me with my history. I used to be a hotel manager and I just changed my life, and now I'm an artist. So you can imagine that there were a lot of people that were not happy about it at the beginning. High numbers on working hours, because we are the product and we are also managing the product. We have to do a lot of things. There's just not just playing, just a lot of things: social media, networking, and etc. Low market predictability and security, low and unstable wage, low level of recognition in society. It probably is come together with a couple of points. Then screen times on social media, as my friend here say. Isolation and loneliness, omnipresence and substance. responsibility overload, also discrepancy between inner life and outward presentation, also probably comes together with social media, and constant need to self-promote. We talk about it, that we just invest this pyramid, and we're always trying to look for this team, to look for that momentum, and we forget there are a lot of things that are very important. We decided to focus in 3 points that we discussed, that were probably what the main points, but of course that's our believing that is really important to talk about it. But yeah, as I said, we can talk 3 hours about all those topics. The first one is the high levels of stress and pressure. I will say it from my perspective. I'm an artist since 5 years, and since January this year, I started being a full-time artist and do a lot of things, as I say, around the music. I have a label. I have 3 events. I also manage some people, some of my friends. I make they give a lot of advice on social media, and yeah, that is something that could be take you. Sometimes I have the feeling that I need like 40 hours a day, because if I take a pause, then I have the feeling that that I'm like missing something. So there is a lot of stress around it. There are also about many other topics, about financial topics, about taxes or something like that. So this is something that not everybody talks about it. Because we are DJs and we are supposed to that transmit that we are this positivity, that everything is alright, we are partying, and nobody wants to talk about the problems.
Do you ever take days off? You said you have so many things to manage. You wish you had 48 hours per day.
I really try. It's very difficult. I see that my environment, like some of my friends tell me, hey, you have to take day off. I haven't taken vacations in probably 2 or 3 years. Because of course I'm not on that level where I can afford it. But I always try to make like good things for me, like music itself relax me a lot, to read, to write, or something like that, and even to meet with friends and go grab a beer and talk about like deep talks, and that helped me a lot. I think in this point is really important to have a really nice group of people really supportive, and that I'm lucky for that.
Yes. I totally agree. I think it's very hard to take a day off. I try to trick my brain into thinking taking a day off today is an investment in a long-term stable mental health, because once you're burned out, and then those extra days you did, those overtime days, don't serve any purpose.
Yeah, I can say I have a really good friend of mine, Tim. He's also a DJ here in Berlin, and we were like, we always start like talking about music and that stuff, and he had a burnout at the beginning of the year. He canceled all the gigs like for 4 weeks, and he is the kind of guy that every weekend has 2 gigs. And he started to go to a therapy, and it worked perfectly. Actually, he wrote me today, and was happy that we were doing this, because I think that this we have to raise awareness about it. I think you can tell more about that experience of that person, because you also were one of the ones who helped him.
Yes. We're gonna talk a little bit about where we can turn to in the end. So you have some addresses.
Yes.
Should we go to the next one?
Yeah.
Isolation. Yeah, we talked about it. We sacrificed time with our friends. How do you handle this?
For me, in my situation, my friends are at the moment like my near family. My family lives in Dublin and in Spain, so I always ride with them every 2 or 3 days and check them up. But it's not the same to have them around. So I have a really supportive group of friends that every time that I'm down, I can speak openly about it. and then I feel better. But I have to say that there are sometimes also when you probably don't see your friends for 10 days because you are on tour or something. This is very difficult because you are surrounded by people, but it's not your people. So you are really, you feel like really, lonely. I think that it also, I also have friends that they are way forward in the industry, and the problem from them is also loneliness, because they are probably today in Shanghai and tomorrow they are in Australia, and the day after tomorrow in the USA or something like that, and they actually have tour managers that the main function of a tour manager is, one of the main functions is to give company to the artist, in order that the artist doesn't get insane. And that shows that this is a really, really, really important in the industry, that we have to, in my case, I just set the basis. I also told my friends, if there is the chance that I get bigger, please stay with me. I'm going to try that you stay with me and make the team together or something, and you are my tour manager, or you are do this and this, because this is something really, really, really important from the beginning.
Yes.
It's an investment.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And especially what you said, the discrepancy between being around people all the time, but not having a high quality of relationships with a lot of people in your network doesn't make you feel less lonely, even though you're surrounded by people at parties all the time. So it's about the quality, and you need to cherish those deep relationships.
Also by relationships, it's like, of course, the DJ is the person who is always, today you are here, the other day you are there. So this is really, really difficult to build really strong relationships with people. So yes, I think this is a really important point also.
All right, let's go to the next one. Social media. Yeah, I mean we've already touched upon it. It plays a huge role. The constant need to self-promote, and then this toxic comparison, I think, is a very big point. And I think you have a very good way of handling this toxic comparison.
Yes.
Can you share how you manage this, what your mindset is?
Yes. Yes, we were talking about it in the past days. Well, social media is, I think, always a hate-love relationship for everybody who is in the industry. I say positively because you have now the chance to expose yourself and to sell yourself as a DJ and your music and put it out there, as in it wasn't before. I'm not like that long in the scene, but I have many friends that they explain me how it was, and yeah, this is now incredibly easy now. But it could be, as one of you guys say, it could be very, 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 very difficult. You compare yourself with the other DJs, and they always say that the people likes or love when you are doing well, but not when you are doing better than them, something like that. So in my case, I have seen I have a person that I have a help syndrome, so I like to help people, and I always like book them in a club, or I give feedback on a track, or I recommend it to another person or something like that about their art or something. And I realized that most of them are not my competitors. We are a lot of DJs and different point of our careers, and I see them as potential supporters. Like it has to be organic, of course. I'm not like helping you if you help me or something like that. It has to like happen organic. I like the person. I see that the person has potential. I see that the person like my music, and I probably like the music of the person or something. I see that also in my numbers, and when I release something, and that is something that for me is really, really, really important. I trick my mind to think like that and not compare myself, because as my friend here says, comparison is just
Yes.
the worst thing that you can do.
Yes.
The worst thing that you can do. And normally you esteem yourself lower as the other people. Other people probably think that you are crazy, amazing, everything, and you say that always you esteem always lower.
Yeah, and you pick the people that are slightly above you for
Yeah.
the comparison. You never pick the people below, so to say. But this is also very harmful thinking in these categories above, below, because as you said, most people are not your competitors because everyone has their very own path, right? And everyone has a different skill set. One person may be up there because their music is so well produced. The other one may be up there because they're such a good connector and networker. There's thousands of different skill sets and reasons.
That's
So
right.
it doesn't really make sense to compare your own path to the path of others. You're on a different path. And then also take a step back and be thankful for the things that you're good at, and admit that you got lucky a lot of times and not just them. I tend to forget how lucky I got many times for my career.
Yeah. It's also, as I said, social media. You could talk about like 3 hours and how it affects us and everything. But my piece of advice that works for me, of course, everybody has to make their decisions and to have their system to solve the problems. But for me, is when I just comment this, I just say, hey, happy release day. I like your music, and this, and probably can. After that, you can start talking with a person and make friends, just like with you, for example. That happens so organically like that.
And also what social media forces us to take on a skill set that we don't naturally maybe have. A lot of producers are introverts who like being in the studio.
That's
At
right.
least for me, that's true. So they don't want to stand in front of the camera and film themselves doing something crazy. So I would also advise, if you can, at any point, try to outsource it. If you have the resources, maybe find someone who does most of it or gives you some ideas or something like that. Because it's impossible to be good at everything. You just can't expect that from yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Then, yes, what can I do when things get serious?
I'll take the first point. I always say to people, as I say at the beginning of the talk, there are like really a lot of persons who are going through a lot of things regarding mental health. I asked it probably in the last year around 20, 25 friends of mine that are in the DJ scene, and you ask, hey, how are you? And they say, yeah, I'm good. I have a release, or I'm DJing here, or and they say, hey, yeah, but how are you? Like, and you have the feeling that, and it was very surprising because you have the feeling that they wanted to be asked this question. Like, they feel relief and they say, okay, now I have the chance, go for it. And they start talking about all the problems. And if statistically, like every 10 persons, 9 of them are probably or suffering in the past, something like that, I'm pretty sure that they are open to talk if they are empathic enough. So the first point I think will be talk with friends and family. Sometimes we are not saying in our heads, and it helps. Say, hey, I have a problem. Just say, I have it to a friend, or to, if you don't want to be judged by your friends, just talk with any stranger. Happened also to me. Totally a stranger, totally another point of view, and that help always. Yes.
And of course, not everyone feels comfortable doing this, or maybe doesn't even have the right friends. Then there's other things you can do. If you want to seek more professional help, going into therapy would be the most obvious one. It's not easy to get a slot for therapy in Germany. Now, these addresses are more for people who have German health insurance. There is a network of all the therapists in Berlin where you can look through the list, and also the insurance Unity, Kassenärztliche Vereinigung, they also have lists online. So if you want to take a picture, please feel free to do this. Then the Club Commission Berlin and Mental Rave Network offer therapy in groups for people working in the nightlife, and they do still have some available slots, so you can write them, get in touch with them, and get a slot there. And if things get really, really bad, you can contact the Berliner Krisendienst if there's something very acute going on. Yes. And last thing I want to address is the Mental Rave Network, which is a relatively fresh initiative from a group of event organizers and just volunteers. They offer therapy groups for people working in the scene. You can reach out to them. Most of them are group therapies, and it's all based on volunteer work. The therapists are professionals, and it is government funded by the initiative, Initiative Musik, Initiative for Music, and in cooperation with the Charité, which is the biggest hospital in Europe. And they still have available slots. So this is a very easy way to get a therapy space now, rather than having to wait 9 months. Is it on average? You have to wait for a slot. So, and if you want to get in touch with them, you can check out their website, or write them an email, or get in touch with them on Instagram. All right. So we're done.
I think
With our
that
breath,
if
are there
you
any
guys want to
yes.
share something with us about probably you have some problem in the past, or how do you overcome that, or
if you have some questions, now would be open round.
all right.
Yes.
I just want to say thanks for this masterclass or
Welcome.
topic talk, whatever.
Thank you.
And in my case, the loneliness is the most important thing, or most I don't
Most
Yes.
common
what
problem.
do I say? And how you get
Don't worry.
my vocabulary is gone.
You can say it in German if you want.
Wie kommt ihr damit klar?
How
Also-
do we deal with
Yes.
with,
How do you
with
do with the
isolation?
loneliness? Yes.
I do find it hard. I have to force myself to call someone,
Okay.
to call my parents, call my friends, call some of my family, and just talking with them, even though they may not be able to relate to everything, already helps a big deal. And I also find journaling very helpful. If you don't have someone to talk to write it down, so your brain can get rid of it for a while. Yeah, but if you don't have that sort of connection, then you have to be pragmatic about it and find the right people for you. And a lot of times you will not find them in the club scene.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
right. That's right. For me, I think that the first things is I can understand that sometimes, because I had it, that if you talk about some topics about your family, probably they're not going to understand. So now they are really supportive, because I like teach them about this and about how hard it is, and so I can talk a little bit openly with them. But what I said before, I have friends that were friends with me before I was a DJ, and they're staying there, so I'm lucky for that. But I have friends that have made from the point that I started talking about my problem. That, for example, with Fabian, where I started talking, I really don't remember. It was like 1.5 years ago, and we have a call. We just to be a quick call about something like 10 minutes, and then I speak out my problem, and we spoke like 2 hours. So that like start a bond between us, because I say, okay, I'm going through the same. So probably in order to deal with loneliness, you can just talk with a friend of you, or probably a total stranger that you think probably you vibe with that stranger, and you think that it's a cool person and everything. I think that they are the people, if you they see a call from help, they are going to help. Of course, there are people that are probably not that empathic, but normally, if I see that the person is trying to open itself with me, and I normally, it's my way, I ask directly, what happened with you? How can I help you? Not everybody does that, but people tend to help. Yeah.
And one more point that I think is very important, that in order to create connections, sometimes you do have to get out of the comfort zone and start sharing about yourself first, because that makes it easier for your surroundings to also share about themselves. It's difficult to create deep connections without any proactivity. So, and I've made very good experiences with just sharing a little bit more. You don't have to overshare, of course, but sharing a little bit more and then see how people react. And if they don't react to it, then they're not the right people. But it's a very good way of finding the right people.
For me, for my opinion, show authenticity
Yes.
a lot.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good.
All right. Then we're done.
Thank you for being here,
Thank you.
guys.